Chung Delay urged Li Wanner to think beyond Toad Fort. Li Wanner asked what those larger ambitions actually meant. She wondered whether he meant moving from helping the brothers at Toad Fort live well to making everyone in the empire live well. Chung Delay confirmed that this was exactly what he wanted. He believed that anyone who held power should use it to bring prosperity to all. In his view, the world was already moving toward the end of disorder and the reunification of the empire. When that time came, Li Wanner would rule while he handled the army. Together, they would establish a new empire. When Li Wanner asked what kind of empire he had in mind, Chung Delay answered that the people should have enough food and clothing, capable people should have room to rise, the weak should have more ways to survive, and the empire should stand above every other nation with its territory stretching across the world. Li Wanner imagined that future and felt it was too distant to believe in. She doubted whether she could ever reach it. No woman had ever taken the throne before, and she could not see how the feudal lords or her imperial brothers would accept it. Chung Delay brushed that aside. To him, the throne was only a chair, and the one who won decided who occupied it. Li Wanner was struck by how lightly he treated something that others would kill for. She warned that placing her on the throne would go against everything the realm accepted. Chung Delay answered that opposition could be dealt with by force. He promised to crush anyone who refused to submit. He assured her that if she built enough merit and if he supported her, there was no reason she could not become emperor. Li Wanner reminded him that she was only a princess with no inheritance rights. The throne would be better in his hands. She wanted little for herself beyond a peaceful life at his side in the palace. Then he looked at her more carefully and pressed the thought she had not spoken aloud, that she wanted that position too. Li Wanner could not answer. She sat beside him in silence and kept thinking. After a long pause, Li Wanner began to speak about a memory from childhood. When she was not yet 10 years old, she had been her father's favorite daughter. One day, while he attended court, she slipped away from her maid and entered the hall by herself. She passed through the officials and guards and made her way to the steps below the throne, where the emperor sat above them all. The emperor did not drive her away. He held her in his arms and kept her beside him while the court continued. An official announced that the new laws would be carried out successfully, and the hall answered with cries of, "Long live the emperor." The chant filled the court. She had been too young to understand the discussion, but she never forgot that moment. Her eyes stayed fixed on the throne. More than anything else, she remembered the position itself and the view from it. From that height, she looked out over the court and the square below. The soldiers beneath looked dense and distant, almost like ants. A bird rose from the rooftop and crossed the walls of the palace. Beyond them lay the city of Chang'an. Past Chang'an, she imagined the plains, the rivers, and the mountain ranges stretching without end. In her memory, all of it lay beneath that single seat. From then on, that became the highest goal in her heart, the place where the whole realm rested under one person's feet. Li Wanner had never understood why feudal lords and warlords chased the throne so desperately, even when a short reign often ended in death, disgrace, and ruin for later generations. To countless people across the empire, the throne represented the highest authority, and even seeing it once would have felt like a blessing. Soldiers stood in ordered ranks before it. Chung Delay treated it as nothing more than a chair and possibly an uncomfortable one. Lin Xiaoyu remarked that it was only the imperial throne, then recalled stabbing Emperor Ming and splashing blood across the seat. He had even sat on it for a moment before, and he believed it was hard and unpleasant. Chung Delay listened in silence, then concluded that the position itself seemed cool, refreshing, and worth looking at. Li Wanner could only look at him without answering. Li Wanner considered Chung Delay a strange man. He had come from humble beginnings, yet he showed no real attachment to power, and that was part of why she loved him. She knew almost no one could resist that temptation, and she could not resist it either. As a princess with no right of succession, she had believed she should never think about the throne, so she buried those thoughts in her heart. Later, as she traveled and witnessed the suffering of the people, she wanted to change what she had seen, but she had no power to do more than add a handful of dirt to the graves of the dead. That experience brought back the view she had once seen as a child. She began to think that if she ruled the empire herself, she might govern better than the people who held power, even if the throne had never been meant for her. When their master chose her, she still worried about what Chung Delay truly wanted. She had not expected him to place that future in her hands. The thought made her happy, but it also left her uneasy. Chung Dalei told her not to fear it. After taking the empire, they would govern it together just as they governed Toad Village, only on a larger scale, and she would become the true manager of the Toad clan rather than anyone's puppet. From his view, it made little difference whether the throne belonged to him or to her. Lee Warner clarified that this was not what worried her. She feared that if the day really arrived, their responsibilities would only grow. Their distance would widen, and they would slowly become strangers to each other. Chung Dalei rejected that outcome. Even if they ended up thousands of miles apart with endless duties, he believed their hearts would remain connected. He also wanted to see Lee Warner openly become empress, honored by all and placed above everyone else. Even then, when no one else was around, she would still be his Princess Mingyu and his lucky charm, and that was enough for him. To Lee Warner, the two of them had just settled matters of the empire as casually as if they were discussing a household matter. After that, Chung Dalei turned to practical plans. Once they returned to the mountain stronghold, he intended to prepare for war and begin dealing with the nearby feudal lords. When Lee Warner asked who he planned to strike first, he named Liang Zhou, Minister Kui, and Song Bokong, and she seriously weighed that proposal. She then asked to accompany him on campaign. She told him she was not worried about danger because if he were injured, she wanted to be there to heal him with a kiss. Chung Dalei was caught off guard. Both of them fell quiet as the distance between them disappeared. Chung Dalei felt an unexpected closeness, while Lee Warner became sharply aware of how near they had moved. Something in him urged him to act. Lee Warner remembered that she had secretly kissed him more than once before. Even after making up her mind, she was still frightened and her heart pounded violently. This time, Chung Dalei finally completed the kiss he had once failed to finish on the grasslands, and Lee Warner returned it. The moment went further. Lee Warner felt as though she were enduring a painful trial, yet she accepted it because it was for him. They held each other among the blooming roses. The night was hot and airless. Cicadas cried without pause, and not even a small wind passed through the courtyard. A thin mist covered the area and blurred everything into a faint haze. At the same time, a reward was obtained for 5 winds and 10 rains, an effect that brought wind once every 5 days and rain once every 10 days. Morning came and Lee Warner called for Chung Dalei. She told him her body was still sore and proposed staying a few more days. Chung Dalei agreed there was no need to hurry, and he kept combing through her long hair. Lee Warner looked back at him and asked him to help wrap a cloth around her. Chung Dalei asked what it was. Lee Warner explained that it was a binding cloth, and that Ni Yin-yang usually helped because she could not reach properly on her own. Chung Dalei asked whether she normally used it and why. Lee Warner explained that when she traveled through the martial world, leaving it unbound drew too much attention and brought unnecessary trouble. She added that riding was uncomfortable and sword practice became inconvenient, then asked him again for help. Chung Dalei finally understood why her figure had seemed inconsistent before, and realized he had missed it the previous night because the room had been too dim. He asked why she kept enduring something so uncomfortable, then told her that now he was with her, anyone who carried bad intentions toward her would die. He also asked why the future empress of the world should have to live so modestly. Lee Warner called to him, and Chung Dalei promised he would get her new clothes. He then entered the system space and asked to buy noblewoman clothing, along with several dragon scales. Hart crashed through a wall inside the space and went straight to Gao Sheng. She offered a book in exchange for 10 dragon scales, grabbed him, and pulled the scales off him while Gao Sheng broke down in distress. Hart declared that she had secured 10 protective dragon scales, then hurried back to Chung Dalei. A system notice confirmed the purchase of women's clothing for 2 million fear value, and Hart handed over the robes. Chung Dalei left the system space at once and brought the gift to Lee Warner. Over the next few days, Chung Dalei went to the printing workshop and pointed out the flaws in the current process. Drawing on modern knowledge, he offered practical ways to improve it. He also discussed farming and the future development of the ridge. The two chiefs worked out how they would cooperate from then on. Toad Village would speed up the development of its territory and send troops quickly to protect Xinghua Ridge. Sima Qian recorded that Xinghua Ridge would take responsibility for protecting Chung Dalei's image. Chung Dalei and White Wolf later ate and drank together in the forest, pouring more from a jar into their bowls. During that time, the system announced that Xinghua Ridge had officially been incorporated into Toad Village's territory. Another notice confirmed that more than 120 people from Xinghua Ridge had joined Toad Village. A few days passed, and the women of Xinghua Ridge worked together in flooded fields, planting rice seedlings by hand. White Wolf called out for them to stop fooling around and finish the planting while the weather still held. Nearby, Sima Qian felt strangely uncomfortable, as though some force was pressing down on her. She lifted her head from the grass and saw Cheng Delay, Li Wanner, and Ni Yinyang preparing to leave on horseback. Li Wanner adjusted her hat covering as she rode forward in the clothes Cheng Delay had given her. White Wolf asked whether the boss was leaving, and Cheng Delay confirmed it. He explained that they could not remain any longer because the men back at the fort would already be worried, then asked whether she wanted to return to Toad Village with him. White Wolf stayed silent for a moment before answering that he knew her well enough already, and that she could not abandon the women there and leave them behind. Cheng Delay told her that once he reached the fort, he would immediately send a garrison to protect Xinghua Ridge. After the troops arrived, she could return to Toad Village. He reminded her that the brothers often spoke about her and feared that something might already have happened. The men who had once come out of the mountain together had gradually disappeared, some falling in battle, some dying of old age, and some scattering in different directions. Too many had already been lost, and many of the ones still alive might never meet again. White Wolf remembered the years they had fought side by side and the people who were gone. Cheng Delay gave the signal to leave, and the group rode off while White Wolf remained in the rice field and watched them go.